Welcome to Faith 7 Business, where stories ignite faith and strategy. Every word here is crafted to inspire, transform minds, and drive action. Why do so many people with potential still fail? Have you ever had a great opportunity but hesitated because you were afraid to fail? Have you carried a brilliant idea in your heart but ended up abandoning it, lacking the confidence or clarity to start? Have you ever watched others succeed and quietly wondered, why not me? The painful truth is, it's not because you're unqualified. It's because, consciously or not, you chose to bury your talent instead of activating it. Fear, procrastination, and the mindset of waiting for the perfect moment have stolen the very opportunities you were meant to seize. But here's the good news. The parable of the faithful and lazy servant doesn't just reveal our failures, it offers a roadmap to transformation. This ancient story teaches you how to take action with long-term vision rather than chasing instant results. Allocate your resources wisely, focusing on your strengths instead of spreading yourself thin. Face risk with faith, not fear. Letting courage, not caution, define your direction. And most of all, become a faithful steward not only in business but in your life's calling. Fact: if you've ever hesitated, feared, or missed your moment, this message is for you. Start again. This time with faith, strategy, and courage. Book Ancient Wisdom for Modern Business. In today's fast-moving business world, where decisions are made in seconds and markets change in the blink of an eye, seeking wisdom from ancient stories may seem out of place. We live surrounded by flashing graphs, economic indicators, and global capital shifts. And yet, in the noise of modern finance, we often forget. Some principles are timeless. They transcend cultures, crises, and centuries. These principles not only endure, but lead if we choose to listen. One such story is the parable of the faithful and the lazy servant, Matthew 25, verse 14 through 30. This isn't just a moral tale. It's not just a spiritual illustration. It's a manifesto on stewardship, risk, responsibility, and return. Line by line, this parable reveals the mindset of a wise investor, a discerning leader, a faithful manager, one who understands that every opportunity comes with responsibility, and every hesitation risks loss. Jesus' words paint a vivid picture of people entrusted with unequal resources, yet held to the same standard, to multiply what they've been given. One takes action and grows what's entrusted to him. Another hides it and is ultimately removed. Here, investing is no longer just financial, it becomes sacred, a test of faith, a measure of courage, a reflection of one's willingness to act. Brain, understanding the parable. The parable begins with a familiar but symbolic scene. A wealthy master prepares to leave on a journey. Before departing, he entrusts his wealth to 3 servants, 5 talents to the first, 2 to the second, and 1 to the third. The distribution isn't random, it's based on each servant's ability, a powerful insight. God never gives responsibility beyond what we can handle, but He does expect faithfulness with what we're given. The first 2 servants don't waste time. They trade, invest, and work diligently. Their reward, they double what they received. But their reward isn't just numeric, it's relational. The master looks not only at the return, but at the spirit of stewardship, leadership, and courage behind it. His words, "Well done, good and faithful servant," are more than praise. They're validation of a life well managed. The third servant, however, is paralyzed by fear. He doesn't squander the money, but he buries it. He does nothing. And in the master's eyes, doing nothing is the gravest failure. In both the kingdom of God and the world of business, laziness, passivity, and fear-driven inaction destroy more value than failure ever could. Stewardship beyond money. This parable is not just about wealth. It's a portrait of total life management, your skills, time, relationships, opportunities, and creative potential. Each talent represents what God has placed in your hands. No one is overlooked, and no one is excused from using what they've been given. Success, then, isn't about how much you start with. It's about what you do with what you have. From an investment and entrepreneurial standpoint, this parable underscores a vital principle. Every resource must be activated to grow, whether it's capital, capacity, or calling. An investor who simply protects their portfolio will eventually lose ground. A business that never innovates will be left behind. Value only increases when it is engaged with wisdom and boldness. With simple language yet profound strategic depth, Jesus gave us an investment roadmap, where the line between faith and action, risk and reward, laziness and leadership is clearly drawn. And in the end, the question is not, how much are you holding, but rather, what have you done with what you were given? Investment strategy lesson, long-term vision. One of the most profound lessons from the parable of the faithful and the lazy servant is the importance of long-term vision. In the story, the master doesn't remain present. He leaves for a long time, entrusting his wealth to his servants. Not as neglect, but as a deliberate test of faithfulness, patience, and strategic planning. The master's absence is a metaphor for seasons of investment without immediate results, where success requires conviction, courage, and consistency. During that time, the servants had to make decisions, take ownership, and live in the belief that faithfulness today would yield reward tomorrow. And indeed, the outcome proves only those who remained steadfast, proactive, and focused on the long term received the master's commendation and reward. In today's business world, where get-rich-quick schemes, short-term plays, and speculative strategies are common temptations, this parable rings out as a clear warning. It doesn't reject profit, but it reframes it. True profit is not the product of impatience, but of time, trust, and vision. According to research by the Institute for Faith Work and Economics, the parable reflects long-horizon strategies in modern investment theory, an idea echoed by Warren Buffett's famous quote, "If you aren't willing to own a stock for 10 years, don't even think about owning it for 10 minutes." This perfectly echoes the spirit of the parable. Patience is not passive waiting. It is deliberate action sustained by purpose. The faithful servants did not chase trends or bury their fears. They acted consistently, strategically, and with confidence in the power of time. And in a world where everything changes in an instant, a true investor must be someone who holds a deep conviction in core values, sees beyond the noise of short-term volatility, and possesses the courage to follow a long-term strategy even when no one sees or applauds it yet. Like the servant who received the master's praise, true reward is never for the hurried, but for the faithful, the far-sighted, and the bold. Strategic asset allocation. One subtle but powerful detail in this parable lies in how the master allocates the talents, not randomly, not equally, but according to each servant's ability. This reveals a highly practical mindset. Invest according to strength. Allocate based on capacity. The distribution, 5 talents, 2 talents, and 1 talent, roughly equates to 62.5%, 25%, and 12% of the total capital. According to the Institute for Faith, Work, and Economics, this distribution aligns closely with modern portfolio theory developed by Nobel laureate Harry Markowitz. This theory asserts that optimal investing requires strategic diversification across assets with different risk-return profiles. with the clear and passionate tone of an American adult speaker. The master, in this case, acts like a sophisticated portfolio manager. He doesn't just hand out money. He evaluates capabilities, assesses risk, and allocates assets accordingly. Though ancient in context, this act is strikingly quantitative and modern in wisdom. This is a golden lesson for entrepreneurs, leaders, and investors today. In a world obsessed with everything now, Scripture reminds us true investment wisdom is not throwing all your capital into one basket, but diversifying based on strength, opportunity, and long-term purpose. Successful entrepreneurs do not invest based on emotion. They analyze strengths across industries, projects, and people, then allocate capital, time, and energy strategically. They understand that not all ventures produce equal returns, and that investing in the right person, at the right time, in the right way is an art of discernment. The parable also warns, misallocation or failing to invest at all results in loss. The lazy servant didn't fail because of market risk. He failed because of inaction. The greatest risk wasn't misinvestment, but no investment at all. Therefore, the strategic takeaway from this parable goes beyond vision. It speaks into the architecture of your personal and business portfolio. Allocation isn't just a financial formula. It's an expression of orderly faith, wise stewardship, and leadership that seeks to activate every ounce of entrusted potential. Risk and return, the walk of faith and wisdom. The parable of the faithful and the lazy servant is not only a lesson in stewardship, it's a sharp illustration of the relationship between risk and reward, a core truth in any investment decision. The first two servants chose not to play it safe. They embraced risk through trading, negotiating, and investing. They had no guarantees, no fixed return, but they had working faith and personal responsibility. And as a result, they doubled what they were given. The third servant, in contrast, was driven by fear. He didn't lose the capital, but neither did he multiply it. And in the master's eyes, that wasn't safety. It was laziness and failure. He failed to see that doing nothing is also a risk, and often the greatest risk of all, lost opportunity. As Nathan Gwilliam notes, investment requires courage to face risk, but risk must be managed, not avoided. Risk management doesn't mean stopping. It means moving forward strategically, with knowledge, with analysis, and with thoughtful diversification. In modern business, this means studying your market, validating data, building flexible portfolios, and applying decision models that balance ambition with wisdom. Success does not come from hiding what you have. It comes from engaging it boldly, managing it wisely, and multiplying it faithfully. No one captured this truth better than the legendary investor Benjamin Graham when he said, "Successful investing is about managing risk, not avoiding it." That statement echoes the entire spirit of the parable. Fear of risk forfeits profit, but carelessness with risk loses everything. Success doesn't come from burying your assets in the ground. It comes from daring to plant, cultivate, and endure. For entrepreneurs, investors, and leaders, this lesson comes alive daily. You don't build wealth by merely preserving. You don't grow by staying the same. You don't create value by remaining in your comfort zone. But risk doesn't mean recklessness. The two faithful servants didn't act blindly. They moved with wisdom, planning, and the capabilities their master had already seen in them. This is where faith meets strategy. This is where courage meets stewardship. Smart entrepreneurs don't avoid risk, they assess it wisely. They weigh the opportunity and the cost. They act with a blend of instinct, data, and belief. Because in every market, from stocks to real estate, from startups to social impact, profit is always the reward of informed courage. Proactive stewardship, from preservation to multiplication. A standout lesson in the parable of the faithful and lazy servant is the stark contrast between proactive action and passive avoidance. The first two servants engaged the market. They worked with what was given to them. They didn't wait for more instructions or blame their circumstances. They acted as faithful stewards with vision and responsibility. The third servant, however, chose passivity. He buried his talent in fear of loss. But in truth, he failed not because he lost the money, but because he did nothing at all. And that cost him everything, including his small beginning and his standing with the master. The parable teaches a vital investment truth. Inaction is an action, and it leads to loss. In today's fast-paced world, with markets, technologies, customer behaviors, and supply chains constantly shifting, proactivity is survival. A great strategy today may become obsolete tomorrow unless it is adjusted, refined, and executed with agility. Active stewardship is not just reacting to changes. It's observing, analyzing, deciding, and steering consistently to optimize outcomes and protect your edge. Great investors don't just hold capital, they grow it by watching cash flow, rebalancing portfolios, and seizing new opportunities. The difference between the first servant and the last one wasn't how much they were given, but how they thought. The one who invested, activated. The one who feared, buried. The one who acted, multiplied. The one who delayed, lost. The third servant's mistake is a warning to every entrepreneur. Simply protecting what you have is not enough. The market won't wait. Time won't rewind. And opportunity doesn't come to those who wait. It comes to those who prepare, adapt, and act. Every business leader must ask themselves, what talents am I burying out of fear? What decisions am I postponing that need action now? Am I clinging to safety instead of creating value? The answers to these questions will determine which kind of steward you are. The one entrusted with more, or the one who loses even the little he has? Entrepreneurial spirit, from parable to practice. The parable of the talents isn't just spiritual, it's practical. It outlines 3 essential qualities found in every successful entrepreneur. 1. Initiative. Lead, don't wait. The first 2 servants didn't wait for further instruction. They understood that being entrusted with something meant they also had the authority and responsibility to grow it. And they acted, immediately, decisively. According to the Foundation for Economic Education, this is true entrepreneurship. Seeing opportunity where others see risk. Moving first, not last. Turning potential into measurable results. Initiative is the heartbeat of innovation, the fire of entrepreneurship, and the force behind every great breakthrough in business history. 2. Service. Profit follows purpose. A subtle yet powerful insight in the parable. The faithful servants didn't invest for their own gain, but to serve their master. Their reward came not from selfish ambition, but from loyalty to a higher mission. This is a clear call to all business leaders. Your business exists to serve, not itself, but people. Your customers, your team, your community, they are the masters you steward value for. Profit isn't the end goal. It's the byproduct of real value, real service, and real love for your neighbor. 3. Accountability, the mark of a true leader. In the parable, each servant had to stand before the master and give an account. No excuses, no hiding, only results and faithfulness. In modern business, this is called transparent leadership, built on taking ownership of your decisions, communicating openly with investors, employees, and customers, building a culture of integrity, excellence, and accountability. A strong business is not just a profitable one, it's one that's trusted, respected, and loved. Final reflection. the breadth of faith in enterprise. From these three servants, we don't just see three actions, we see three mindsets. And only two of them can survive, grow, and leave a lasting legacy. The choice is yours. Will you bury or build? Preserve or multiply? Fear or act? Because in the kingdom and in business, the master always returns. And he asks not, "How much were you given?" but, "What did you do with what I entrusted to you?" The true spirit of entrepreneurship is a harmony of proactive vision, a heart of service, and a responsible character. These three traits not only help entrepreneurs build their careers, they also shape them into faithful stewards of the grace and opportunities that God has placed in their hands. Spiritual and ethical dimension, leading as a steward of God. Behind the sharp strategic lessons of the parable of the faithful and lazy servants lies a deeper layer, the spiritual and ethical dimension. At this level, the parable touches the very core of every business action: purpose, identity, and responsibility in leadership over what has been entrusted to us. 1. Asset management, a steward, not an owner. In modern Western culture, individuals are often seen as the owners of their achievements. But the Bible offers a countercultural view. Every good and perfect gift is from above. James verse 17. The parable makes it clear. The talents were given. They were not created by the servants themselves. Thus, the servant becomes a symbol of the entrepreneur as a steward, one who temporarily holds and uses resources for a purpose greater than their own enrichment. In business terms, this leads to a profound ethical principle. Talent, time, capital, and relationships. These are talents God entrusts to us to create common good, not just personal wealth. A business grounded in ethics doesn't merely seek profits for shareholders. It brings value to customers, employees, and the community by using its resources wisely and faithfully. 2. Faith in action, belief that moves. The first two servants had more than skills, they had faith. Faith in their own abilities, in their master's trust in them, and more importantly, faith that faithful action would be rewarded. This is the mindset every entrepreneur must carry into the uncertain world of business. Faith in vision. Faith in integrity. Faith that results will come when the journey is walked with courage and uprightness. In a world full of doubt and short-term thinking, those who act with deep-rooted conviction and bold faith are the ones who make a lasting difference. 3. Overcoming fear. Action is proven faith. The third servant didn't fail due to incompetence, but because fear paralyzed him. He feared loss, judgment, and responsibility, so he chose inaction. But the parable teaches us doing nothing out of fear is still a choice, and a costly one. In business, fear of failure is the silent killer of countless ideas before they ever see the light of day. Entrepreneurs constantly face uncertainty, shifting markets, failed products, unexplored paths. But calculated risk is always healthier than stagnant fear. Benjamin Franklin once said, "You may delay, but time will not." And Scripture reminds us, faith without works is dead. James 2 verse 17. Therefore, overcoming fear is not about erasing emotion, it's about acting in spite of it. Because you know you were entrusted, chosen, and called to multiply what you've been given. Ethics and faith, the twin pillars of a resilient entrepreneur. In a world that celebrates fast success and profit maximization, the parable reminds us, true success comes from quiet faithfulness. Lasting value is built on personal integrity. And profit is merely a byproduct when we live out our calling as faithful stewards. Therefore, an entrepreneur isn't merely a company founder. They are a person entrusted by God to create impact, not by force, but by living faith and unwavering ethics. Conclusion: lead with faithfulness, invest with faith. The parable of the faithful and lazy servants isn't just a moral tale from millennia ago. It is a living model for true success, a blueprint that weaves financial wisdom, business courage, and spiritual stewardship into one integrated calling. In the American economy, where speed, creativity, and competition dominate, the entrepreneur must have more than strategy. They must have a spiritual compass. The parable challenges them to invest with long-term vision, not short-term gains. Allocate resources wisely based on strength and potential. Take calculated risks, not let fear dictate action. Manage actively, not passively preserve capital. But it doesn't stop there. It calls entrepreneurs to embody a servant mindset, putting the value of others above personal interest. A spirit of responsibility, marked by transparency, integrity, and accountability. Moral courage to act in faith beyond fear of failure. Therefore, in doing so, they will not only build profitable businesses, but soul-rich enterprises, leaving lasting impact and proving themselves faithful stewards of what God has given them. In a world that rewards speed, this parable honors quiet faithfulness. In an age of ego, it redefines leadership as servanthood. And in a culture afraid of risk, it offers us the courage to act by faith. Ultimately, the greatest reward is not profit, market share, or acclaim. It is hearing the eternal words from the Master who entrusted us with his treasures. Well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful with a few things. I will put you in charge of many things. Come and share your Master's happiness. Matthew 25, verse 21. Thank you for walking alongside Faith 7 Business. Your follow is more than a number. It's a mark of faith, a hunger for transformation, and a shared journey toward lasting value. Keep journeying with us, where storytelling, faith, and strategy converge to spark inspiration and action. Penn, don't miss the upcoming lessons, packed with real-world strategies, transformational insights, and powerful leadership principles crafted for purpose-driven entrepreneurs like you. Faith 7 Business, writing to lead, living to make an impact.